PSG have done it again. They are in the Champions League final for the second year in a row and will be looking to defend their title. But this time they play against Arsenal, a team they beat in the semi-finals. But it would not be the same. But in today's game, they just needed to get a draw or a win, make sure they did not lose, and they will make it to the final. And that's exactly what they did. Getting an early goal, very, very, very good start from PSG in this game, and from then on it was just proper game management. They were solid defensively. Bayern Munich also did not help themselves. They were not as great as they should have been. Their shooting boots were not there. They were sloppy with their passes, making strange decisions. Their shots were not very convincing, and they finally scored so late in the game when it did not matter. There was not enough time. But there has to also be a mention of the controversy in this game. I think the referee did not have his greatest game. The handball in the penalty box, I will speak about that. I think sometimes we need to use logic. That is, by the rules, that's not a penalty, but sometimes we need to use logic. Like, your hand cannot be in such an unnatural position, and it's not a pen. It was just shocking. Also, Nuno Mendes, shaky, could have been a second yellow. We don't really know, but I just think in general, the referee did not have a great game. But ultimately, PSG in the final of the Champions League for the second year in a row, looking really good in general. They basically were able to school Bayern in this particular game, and I thought they were fantastic altogether from top to bottom. So a well-deserved victory for PSG on aggregate 6-5 and into the final of the Champions League. Let's see who's going to win this title. But let me talk quickly about some of the things that happened in this game particularly. I think PSG knew that if they scored a goal early in the game, they were going to be able to control the game. And honestly speaking, I think once again, PSG's attack is so difficult to deal with. Yes, you can look at it and see that Bayern Munich have not been great defensively, but PSG's side, when you look at their attack, they are really, really good at attacking in general. They are very, very fluid in their attack. They're very fluid in how they move around with the ball. So in general, I was not even surprised by seeing an early goal. But I think Bayern Munich, if they really knew what they were going to have to do in this game, it was to prevent an early goal. It was to get on the front foot, especially with your home crowd around you. Give them something to chew on. Give them something to be encouraged by. And that's not what they did today. They were not able to start very well. And conceding in literally 3 minutes, that is just the worst way they could have started. And you could see that they wanted to get back in the game, but they just did not have their shooting boots on. I think in general, like, they just lacked fluidity in their movement. There were many sloppy passes. Olise probably had one of his poorest games in a while. Diaz as well, early in the first half, was not doing that well. In the second half, he started to play a bit better. Kane couldn't really get into it. The shots were just off target. Musiala had some chances. It just did not look good in terms of going forward. And PSG were really good on the counter, but they were not able to score any other goals. Manuel Neuer saved them a number of times. So when you look at it in the grand scheme of the game, I think you have to say that PSG deserved to go through. PSG deserved to win this game. Yes, he ended 1-1, but overall on aggregate, they deserved it more than Bayern Munich, in my opinion. Like I said, very, very poor in terms of their own defensive in their attacking structure. A lot of their shots were going straight to Sofanov whenever they were actually on target. Many shots off target, but when the shots came on target, they were just straight at Sofanov, and he was able to make the good saves. Now, honestly, I have to talk about the handball controversy and the referee in this game. Now, first and foremost, Nuno Mendes got a very early yellow card. I think that was a fair yellow card to give. The referee made the right choice there. But the second opportunity to give a yellow card there, I think it was a bit shaky. Personally, I thought that was the clearest handball I'd seen in a long time. But when you look at the replays, you could see that it was just around his sleeve, so it was a bit shaky. So personally, if that was given as a second yellow, I would not be surprised. But it was one of those ones where, like I said, the area of the hand where the ball touched, you can say, fair enough, maybe that should not be a yellow. Maybe it was a bit too harsh. But when you sit down and look at it, when you go back over and over again, looking at that chance, it's hard to see why that was not a second yellow. I think the movement of his arm, the position of his arm, just not looking very good. And I was shocked that was not a second yellow. But at the same time, the only justification I have for that, because I'm trying to always look at it from both sides. First viewing, that's a yellow card. Second viewing is like, you know what, the area of the ball, the area the ball touched his hand, maybe a bit too far up. But shortly after, we saw a ball cleared out by one of the players, and it hit João Neves' hand right in this area. And I'm like, that is definitely a penalty. I was so sure it was a penalty. I was looking at it, I'm like, how have you not given that as a penalty? But when you start to look at this, at the whole thing in terms of looking at the replays in general, I was like, this has to be given as a penalty. Common sense should tell you that it's a penalty. But then we saw that the rules, or we heard the rules from the commentators and different people saying that you can't give a penalty when the ball has been hit by your own teammate to your hand. Fair enough, the ball was also really struck at a very high speed, but I still look at it and I'm saying, so if there was more than one occasion where that happened, will you say that that should not have been a penalty? I think it was such a crazy decision to me because his hand was in a completely unnatural position. It would have been different if his hand was there before the shot, but the ball came and he put his hand there, and I'm like, how on God's green earth can that not be given as a penalty? Yes, these are the rules, but sometimes I think logic needs to be put into the game. Logic really needs to be put into the game, and that was not given as a penalty. And you can understand the frustration from the players, you can understand the frustration from the fans. I think that should have been given as a penalty, and I think based on the rules, yes, it's the rules, but that is a crazy rule in my opinion. And you know what? Shortly after, Neves, who did the handball, almost scored. So you just know that that would have been a very disastrous thing to happen at that stadium because nobody was going to have it. That was probably going to be a really, really bad situation in terms of that game. But ultimately, I think that was, I just think it wasn't good. But back to the game itself, you have to say that PSG were very, very resilient defensively. They had like so many players come back whenever Bayern were on the ball. Bayern maybe giving PSG enough time to get back and defend properly in a low block. Every time Bayern got the ball, maybe those extra touches would give the defenders or all the PSG players enough time to be able to settle at the back and get into their defensive structure. So I had to say that, especially with the fact that Bayern were not doing well when they were going forward, PSG were very, very good defensively. And I think it showed me a different perspective of PSG. They conceded 4 in the first game. That was probably not their best defensive display. But you're also looking at the Bayern side who are really scoring goals. Like, I think they've not gone a single game this season without scoring. They've scored in every single game they played this season. So you're looking at a team that is very good at attacking in general, and they're going to score many goals in general. So with that kind of game, I don't think it was really a bad situation. But this game, defensively, PSG showed me that they can be very good when it comes to defending. Yes, this was not the way they would normally play in every game. They would go attack. But when you know what's happening, game state, usually, when you know that you're leading by 2 goals on aggregate, you don't need to attack. When you're attacking, you leave a lot of space behind. And Bayern, if they had their shooting boots, or even if they didn't have their shooting boots, with the pace of players like Olise, players like Luis Diaz, players like Harry Kane, who know how to get into the right spaces and make the right choices. Musiala as well, if he had his shooting boots as well today. I keep saying shooting boots, but in general, like, you cannot give those players too much space, especially when you're leading 2-0. There's no need to make any rash decisions. Go manage the game and get the job done. And I think that's exactly what they did. It showed me that they're very good defensively if they choose to be. I don't think this is how PSG will play in the final. I do not think this is how PSG will play in the final, because I think in terms of attack, they have better attackers than Arsenal. Arsenal probably have a better defense than PSG, so I don't think it's going to be a game where PSG will sit back and wait for Arsenal to attack. I don't think that's going to happen. I think PSG will take the game on, but also try to be as good defensively. So I think it's going to be a balance of the first and the second game for PSG in the final. But ultimately, where does that leave us? I think we have our rematch of the semi-finals from last year. Arsenal against PSG. This is going to be a very, very interesting game to me, because I think this is immovable object versus, no, how do they say it? Unstoppable. I've forgotten how they say it though. Guys, indestructible object versus something. You get the points. I don't know how I've struggled with it because I've been thinking about it all day. But the point is, this is going to be a very interesting game for me, because this is attack against defense and occasionally the counter attacks from Arsenal, because I think Arsenal is still a very fluid side, but PSG are way more fluid. The question is, can Arsenal concede 2 goals? I don't think so. I think PSG will be able to score goals. I don't know if they will concede more than 1 or 2. That's Arsenal. So I think it's going to be a very interesting one to see. And history is at stake, because PSG are aiming to be only the second team ever to retain their title. This is Arsenal's first Champions League final in 20 years, but it's still a great achievement. Whether or not they win it or not, I think we need to give respect to Arsenal. And if they win it, even more respect to Arsenal. So I'm really happy for this one. It's poised to be a very interesting final for me. I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly. Yeah, that's what I have to say for this video. I think I stumbled a lot on my words, but the point is, I think I've been able to get everything out. Thank you so much for watching to this point. Let me know what you think. Who wins the final? Did you think Bayern were not good in this game? Do you think PSG were really good in this game? How do you see the final playing out? Let me know in the comments. But before you leave, make sure you like the video, share with a friend who might enjoy this kind of content. And if you like this video, please make sure you subscribe, because we're very, very close to 600 subscribers. Maybe when you're watching this video, we are already on 600 subscribers, so we're on the road to 700. And I appreciate if you watching right now could be one of those people who joins this channel. Thank you so much for watching to this final. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.